This is Countdown to the Grey Cup with Bill Kelly, delivered by Purolator on the Ticats Audio Network.
And welcome to another edition of Countdown to the Grey Cup, delivered by Purolator. I'm your host, Bill Kelly, and we're getting ever closer, of course, to the big game. There have been some big announcements about what's going to be happening with the Maiden Hammer, the Hammer Festival, including some entertainment for halftime that we're going to get to in just a couple of seconds. Maybe the biggest news of all is the fact that with that win last weekend, the Tiger Cats are in the playoffs. So they're in the hunt, and all you have to do is be in that group, and of course anything can happen in the playoffs. So it'd be kind of great. I mean, the topping on top of all this is if we had the Ticats playing a home game for the Grey Cup in November. But let's get to that in due course, of course. What's going on with the rest of the entertainment, and how difficult is it? Difficult, I think, is the key word here, to do the coordination for this. And to talk about this, we're pleased to welcome to the program Gerry Fonzo. Gerry is the Vice President of Stadium Events and Operations with the Hamilton Sports Group. And Gerry, you're so busy. I'm surprised you've got 7 or 8 minutes to talk to us today. How many meetings are you holding off until we get this done? It's got to be crazy for you.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me on the show. No, this is great. It's definitely been busy. But yeah, the team is chomping at the bit. I think we've been doing countdowns every so often, but we're probably give or take about 40 days out now from Grey Cup week starting for us. So really excited to get the show on the road, but I think we're also very excited to showcase a very memorable Grey Cup for everyone to remember for years to come.
We knew a couple of years ago, obviously, Jared, that the game was going to be here again in 2023, and here we are. I know it was kind of a short and truncated version in 2021, of course, because of COVID, and we all know that how that was going at the time. But when did you actually start planning for this Grey Cup, and knowing that in all likelihood this was going to be your chance to really showcase what you guys can do?
Oh, great question, Bill. And it all goes back to when we first won this back, 2019 we were awarded the Grey Cup, I believe. Yeah. So we had some high-level visions, and I think that's what gave us the opportunity. So things like working with our partners of Supercrawl to close down James Street and execute that whole festival. Working with the Around the Bay race folks to do an event on the Thursday leading up to the Grey Cup. Working with students to do a run from Gage Park to Tim Hortons Field. Working with what was our other friend? All our community partners that we've been working with, they take months and years to kind of get that process started, right? So these partners have all been great between Supercrawl and Around the Bay Race and you name it, and I think that's what makes our Grey Cup so special this year, is we've had that time, right? You mentioned it. You can't do the Grey Cup in a 6-month time period, so by having more than a year, you're able to do all these unique things, right? Working with the school boards to have a PA day on the Friday. That's not something you could do overnight. You have to do that, you have to do that 18 months in advance with the school board. So all these ideas that we've had over the years, that's what's going to make this Grey Cup so special. You talk about the music, like those were also big pieces of kind of combining football and music together and bringing in these big acts. Again, not something that happens overnight. It's got to be months or years in the making.
But this, I mean, we all had high expectations, I guess, because we knew that this was your opportunity to really flex your muscle. But the content of this is I think the thing that really blows people away. You mentioned the Thursday night concert, and I figured, okay, fine. I've been to Grey Cups in Ottawa and Toronto and Winnipeg and Calgary, and they're great. I mean, the week-long festival is fabulous. And yeah, okay, there could be a band over here and something going on over here. But the stars, the superstars that you guys have lined up here. Now, I know that, as you mentioned, that Jared, takes a long time to negotiate and get these sorts of things together. But you're saying, yeah, the Thursday concert was with a superstar who's, a 3-time winner of Entertainer of the Year, Country Music Awards. I mean, she's won a boatload of Country Music Awards. I mean, to get somebody of the caliber of Carrie Underwood, people tend to think is the halftime show is going to be the big act for the whole festival, and it's certainly going to be a huge act. But you guys start at the top and go up from there, don't you?
Yes, that's right, Bill. So, with Carrie Underwood. So we actually have her. It's Friday night. So just to correct you.
Friday night. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Friday night at the First Ontario Centre. So that's all set up online right now. Tickets available at Ticketmaster.ca. But we're ecstatic to have Carrie Underwood. Obviously, as soon as we announced Carrie, we had her pre-sale last week. General public on sale just began on this past Saturday. And it's been tremendous. Everybody's talking about the Grey Cup. Now we have everyone's attention, which is amazing, right? So from that perspective, I think Carrie does that piece. And then working very closely with the league on the halftime show, that's obviously been very important to us. And it all starts with our ownership group of making sure we found the right band or the right act for our fans and our demographic. And I think Green Day, I don't think we could be any prouder of landing Green Day right now.
The announcement was made around halftime at the game this past weekend, of course, at Tim Hortons Field. And the amazing thing I noticed is everybody's phone started to light up right after they made the announcement on the big scoreboard, of course. Everybody, you could just see flashes going off. We want tickets. We want tickets. And I knew you've been flooded. I find it interesting. I know a lot of the requests Lindsay and the others were saying is people say, I want Green Day tickets. Well. It's the Grey Cup, okay? They're playing. Right. It's not a Green Day concert. It is within a concert, but it's amazing. All of a sudden, the buzz that was created within 15 seconds of that announcement being made.
Yeah, and that's why the other tactic here was, from a Grey Cup perspective, is making the Grey Cup Music Festival, and that's been our tactic. So Carrie Underwood, like I said, it's a sole concert on its own. Friday night, you can purchase tickets for that. Green Day, you have to obviously, that's the halftime, so having tickets to the Grey Cup itself. We're working on Thursday, working on Saturday, but then also we have approximately, I think it's like 6 other stages that we have lined up throughout our festival. And between Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we have local bands performing every single day down at James Street, and obviously on event day 2, part of their neighborhood block party, we have 2 different stages as well, where fans that have a ticket to the game can join us in the plaza, or if they join us at Bernie Morelli Center as well for a private performance as well.
Yeah, one of our previous shows, we were talking with Tim Podesick from Sonic Onion. He's been a great partner, of course, and a big supporter of the Tiger Cats and of the festival as well, and some great acts there. How do you coordinate, Gerry, a concert within a game like this? The Grey Cup game itself is an event. I mean, and there's a lot of work going into that. I know that you guys are working 25-hour days to try to get the stadium ready and all the things that have to be done. But now you've got to have a concert performed within that, and that means a stage. That means staging. I mean, they're not just going to stand up there and sing. There's got to be some requirements. The work that has to go into this action-packed halftime show is remarkable.
Yeah, no, and Bill, we can't obviously do everything on our own, so we rely on great partners. So you kind of mentioned it, working with Tim Podesick on working with all our local performers and bands that we have down at the festival, and then working with the CFL and our friends at PRP. They'll basically all be a big part of putting on the whole halftime show. So a lot of different staff. I think we reported it in 2021, but you almost have 500 people staff-wise working to put on the Grey Cup show itself, and a big portion of that for sure is putting together the halftime show, because it's very demanding.
And we haven't even talked about the Fallsview show, of course. The Grey Cup, the CFL Awards are going to be at Fallsview Casino, which is a masterstroke, a great idea. But there's a concert after that too. So the coordination here from the QEW all the way up here and across over to the GTAHA is just incredible. The amount of work that's going into this. You realize, Greg or Gerry, I mean, I was just talking with Greg earlier about, when you do something like this, of this magnitude, and I say I've attended past Grey Cups, as you have as well, you're setting the bar pretty high for the future Grey Cups. Like, hey, match this, guys.
Yeah, I was saying that to myself the other day. I was like, I feel bad for BC, who's got to follow it up next year. They're very fortunate. They have a beautiful city, and they have Dwayne, who is a previous Grey Cup employee with the league. So they'll be fine. But in that respect, you're right. I think we are setting the bar very high. And I think that's been our goal all along, is making Hamilton's Grey Cup very unique, but also making it very memorable and doing things different, right? Like, every year, there are traditional Grey Cup elements. You have your cheer extravaganza, you have your alumni luncheon. They're all great events. But when you come to Hamilton, we want to make sure that in 5 or 10 years down the road, people are talking about, wow, but I remember that Grey Cup in Hamilton. They did this, and this. And that's our goal.
Well, it's going to be just incredible, and more announcements to come, by the way, in the days ahead about some of those other elements and some of the other entertainment that's going to be there. And as I say, the buzz is just incredible around the country, not just within Tim Hortons Field. My wife Rebecca she got 15 requests for season tickets, or not season tickets, for Grey Cup tickets rather, within 5 minutes. I mean, get me, and so we've got our own 4 season tickets, of course, and we're going to be at the game. But all of these other people have just said, I got to go. Hats off to the folks that are actually handling handling the tickets and distribution and things of this nature, because the buzz that this whole thing has created and these announcements have been created is exceptional. I mean, the Grey Cup is a buzz within itself, but to have this kind of entertainment here, the only thing you could top it off, I guess, is if we could get the Ticats in the game and have them win it. It'd be kind of nice to have them hoisted in this one particular
I'll be the cherry
time.
on top for sure. That definitely will be.
I don't think you have any control over that. Just about everything else with this festival, though, Jer. And I know how busy you are. I really do appreciate you taking the time. I know you want to get back to work. You probably got meetings upon meetings upon meetings right now because there's still an awful lot of work to do. Good luck with all of this. And by the way, a big thank you to you and your staff. As I mentioned, you guys are working about 25-hour days to make this thing go. And I know it's all going to come together for us that week, and we're looking forward to it.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. Gerry Fonzo, Vice President of Stadium Events and Operations with the Hamilton Sports Group. And by the way, if you want to get more information about all of this, just go to the website, greatcupfestival.ca, and they will give you all the details. And that's ever-changing, of course, because there are more announcements coming up each and every day. And watch for us, of course, Countdown to the Grey Cup. You can see us on the Ticat Audio Network, of course, which is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, I know a great linebacker in the past. You have to be very proud of your defensive team today, too.
Again, our defense was primed. Again, they knew what their job was, and they did a great job. But again, our offense showed them why they're a great offense. They got great receivers. Doug's a great quarterback, and like I say, there's no knock against Doug anymore.
Does this feel as good as when you won it as a player?
Oh, as a player, I don't think you realize all the work it takes to get here. It feels good as a player, but I think as a coach, you're much more satisfying and much more gratifying.
Wally Buono has the best winning percentage of any coach in Calgary's Stampeder history. He now has a 36-18-1 record.
One of my favorite parts of the program, talking with some of the other all-time greats in Canadian football and their experiences with Grey Cups. And, it's the goal, I think, of just about every player, every coach, everybody involved in Canadian football to, at some point, get their name engraved on the Grey Cup. Our next guest has done it 7 times. Not too many people have that option to make that sort of a statement, but he certainly does, and he's earned all of them. He is, of course, Wally Buono, a member of the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, a great football player, a great football coach, and our guest here on Countdown to the Grey Cup. Wally, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks so much for this today.
Well, Bill, it's my pleasure, and as you say, the Grey Cup is always a special week, and every Grey Cup I've ever been in has been very unique.
Well, let's talk about that with your experiences with them. You were raised in Montreal, of course, played minor football there, and came back to Montreal to start your professional career. That first Grey Cup, let's just go back to that just a little bit. That was 1974. You're a member of the Montreal Alouettes. What's it like as a guy just basically getting new to the league? And going to that big game. I mean, you've read about it all your life. You watched them as you were growing up in Montreal. You're on the field now. What's that feeling?
Well, it's a tremendous feeling in the sense that you don't realize how big it is, and how much it means, because you're just a young player and you're just excited to be there playing. So we ended up I think beating the Edmonton Eskimos, and it was at Old Empire Stadium, and the one thing was consistent was that it rained a little bit. But we like I said, we left there with the cup, and we're going to celebrate that I think next year for 50 years. So think about that, right?
Well, and that's the interesting thing about playing football in Canada, I guess. I mean, it's November and it's Canada. So you never know what kind of weather you're going to run into. I mean, as Tiger Cat fans, I mean, I can remember the Fog Bowl in 1962 on Toronto's Lakeshore, the Wind Bowl in 1965, where I remember Joe Zuger punting a football and it seemed to go straight up in the air and then behind him. And you got the rain. I think the following year you were out west and it was like minus 20 or something, wasn't it? I mean,
well, that was in Calgary.
You got to deal with the elements, don't you?
Well, that's the whole idea why they've in Canada, especially, they say the season is broken up into 2 weather zones. The regular season, which is usually hot and humid and all that stuff, and then once you get into the November games, which are the playoff games, the conditions are never certain unless you're playing in the dome. So, you look at the BC Lions today, and they got a great team, and I guarantee you they want to play at home, not go to Winnipeg or to Hamilton. But, the weather is a part of it, and you have to look at building your team to be able also to handle the weather.
Wally, what about the emotion as a player? You just talked about, that first game, that first Grey Cup for you in 1974. I was talking with Randy Ambrosi, CFL commissioner, about this last year. And he says, he remember, I was asking him about his first Grey Cup, and he says, you can't help it. He says, when you're standing there on the field, you're getting lined up for the national anthem, and, there's usually like a military aircraft flying overhead, and there's the pomp and circumstance. And he says, no matter how tough and big they are, he says, you get emotional about it.
Oh, no, you always do. It doesn't matter how many times you've been there. The fact that, all the training, all the hours, all the aches and pains, you're there, and that's what you did all that for, was to stand on the sidelines to hear the national anthem and to be playing for the Grey Cup. So, it's kind of like a climax to all the stuff that most people don't see. Players start to work out in January. Coaches spend countless of hours working, and you play for 3 hours in November, and if you play well enough, you get to celebrate. So when you're standing there, you realize the importance of the game too.
And that feeling, that rush you must feeling. I mean, you've played in your case that first Grey Cup that you were involved in, a very, very strong Edmonton Eskimo team, and when you see those two Mounties walking out there with the Grey Cup, that's got to be kind of special. Is there a little voice in the back of your head that says, well, it was all worth it?
Well, it's always worth it because, at the end of it, this is what you play for. You do get a check at the end of the year for the Grey Cup, but I don't know what I did with that money, and I don't know where it went, but I do know that I have a Grey Cup championship ring. I do know that my name's on the cup, and that'll be forever. And, nobody can ever take that away from you.
And when I talk to players that when they retire, move into the coaching ranks, invariably they'll point to one or two, at least, coaches that they played for or played under that were kind of mentors and kind of people that I guess that you held in such high regard that you said, you know what, I want to do that. Who were the players, or the coaches rather, that you played for as a player that motivated you to say, hey, I want to get into that. I want to be a coach?
Well, there's, three coaches that had a big, big influence on me. Marv Levy, obviously, was our head coach from 1973 to 1977. And, we were very fortunate, I think, to go to a number of Grey Cups with him. Our defensive coordinators, Rod Rust, who had a great career in the NFL, and Dick Roach. These are men that really helped me to understand football and, how to deal with things. And, they were great at motivating the players, but also giving the players ownership. If you talk to Coach O, he'll tell you, the players are the ones that get you to where you want to go, and they're the ones that win the big games for you. So, it's important to have mentors. It's important to learn from people because they've been there, and they give you the path to success.
I've talked to a number of people that played for Marv Levy, and of course he's one of the few coaches that's in both the NFL Hall of Fame and of course the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. Great career down in there with the Buffalo Bills as well. And I always got the sense when I talked to some of the guys on the Buffalo team, and even going back to your days in the 70s when Marv was coaching in Montreal, he was known as a player's coach. I mean, he treated you guys like adults, and just said, you're professionals. He says, I don't have to coach these guys. I have to coach them, but he says, I don't have to discipline. The guy beside him is going to discipline them if somebody's dragging their tail. Is that the attitude that you took off, that these guys know what they're doing, just as long as the bell rings and they're there for each other?
Well, Marv used to be very, very, what do you call it? He loved his veterans. He loved his players. And he gave you that sense that this is your team, and you control yourselves. You monitor yourselves, and you hold each other responsible. And I remember an incident, where Peter Della Riva had to discipline a player just before the game because he was, as Peter thought, he was goofing around and not taking the game seriously. So, those were the way it was. You took it seriously. It was your job. And, with Marv Levy, as long as you helped him win, you were good. You knew he was going to protect you. And, and the guys really respected that. And Marv respected you. And I think it was a good mix.
Your first job, of course, as an assistant in the Calgary Stampeders organization, you stuck around for a long time, and of course moved up to the head coaching position. And if I'm playing word association, I mentioned Wally Buono. Invariably, the people I'm talking to are going to say quarterbacks. I don't know if this chicken and egg thing, Wally, whether you just found these guys or they just developed under you. But I tell you, your championship teams, both in Calgary and in BC, featured some of the best quarterbacks to ever play on Canadian football fields.
Well, you know what? I was, influenced by the Montreal Canadiens in the 70s. I can remember, they always had what they call them the Black Aces. They had the great young players up in the press box, itching to get on the ice, and and I can remember the great Eskimo teams that we played against in the 70s. Always had that third quarterback, which was the next guy coming up. So. When you get a chance to run your own organization, your own team, you have to look at, what's your priorities. And as Hamilton can attest to even this year, with the injuries to their quarterbacks, it has a very detrimental effect on your team. So, we worked hard to try to get the right kind of person. We worked really hard to develop them because quarterbacks have to be developed. Very few come in that are ready-made for the CFL, and if you spend time, give them opportunities, have them succeed, then the likelihood is they'll help you to win games.
Well, and that's the transition we've all heard about, isn't it? I mean, some great quarterbacks have come up here from the U.S. college ranks, and Danny Max told me this. We've talked with other quarterbacks, Matt Dunnigan, the same thing. This is a different game up here. I mean, the field's wider. You got an extra guy, and that extra guy in defense is usually a defensive back. And I remember Matt Dunnigan telling me one time, he threw an interception, I guess, early in one of those games. He said, "Where the hell did that guy come from?" It's a different mindset, isn't it? And it takes time to learn that.
Well, it doesn't. But, just to put things in the proper perspective, the NFL has adapted more to us today than we have to them, okay? So when you look at, how the NFL basically has two offenses. They got the double tight ends, the fullback, and the running back. But then they also have the CFL offense where they get to the one back, get into the shotgun, and throw the football. So, they've adapted to us. And the thing that's, I think, affected the CFL more than maybe a lot of fans understand is they've taken the Matt Dunnigans and the Danny McManuses away from us. Whereas 20, 30 years ago, those guys would be coming to Canada. Now they're staying in the NFL and they're being very, very successful. So, it's a compliment to what's occurred in the CFL, but it's also, makes us have to work harder to go out and get good young quarterbacks and develop them.
Canadians, I think, by definition, are we have an inferiority complex. They go, it's always better over there. And you're right. I mean, when you listen to Americans talking about Canadian football, two things cross my mind, well, I guess, Wally. First of all, yeah, they're paying attention. They see what's going on up here. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think they see the advantages of this, too. Troy was talking about doing the color commentary, of course, on the NFL game, and he's talking about the Cincinnati Bengals offense, and he says, I got all this motion going on. He says, it looked like Canadian football. It was great. So that's kind of a compliment in a roundabout way, but there's a respect here for the way we play the game up here, isn't there?
Well, there is, and the mentality has changed. It used to be, the NFL was, the old boys network, and only certain things work. The 6'5", 250-pound quarterback that can throw the football but can't move his feet. Today, you got quarterbacks that can move their feet, and the Warren Moons, let's just say, didn't get a chance in the NFL. Today, they're the first pick in the draft, So I think it's a reflection of them realizing, you can win, and if you got the great players, good things usually happen.
It starts at the quarterback, of course, but I mean, you had great defenses on those teams. Some of the all-time great BC Lions, of course, played under you and your coaching staff. And a lot of your coaches have gone on to head coaching positions too, in various capacities, both at university and, of course, with other CFL teams, which I think is a testimony to the way that you handled the teams. But you talked about chemistry, Wally, and that's really has to start at the front office all the way down onto the field, doesn't it? I mean, there's got to be, I guess, a working relationship between the ownership, the management of a football team. I know that I've got to get this in because he was a good friend of mine, the late David Braley. I used to sit with David at the Tiger Cat games back in the old days. He still owned the BC Lions, but I think he bled a little bit of black and gold a lot.
David always wore black and gold. But let me tell you two stories. So, 1974, we arrived in Vancouver to play the Grey Cup. They put us up in North Van, somewhere in the nowhere, I think, in a motel. And Sam Berger is a little bit upset. Okay, so he tells the players, put up with it, but pack up in the morning, we're leaving. So Tuesday night, okay, we spend the night in the motel room. Next morning we get up, get in the buses, and we don't know where we're going because, but we know we're going somewhere. So all of a sudden we pull up to the Bayshore, the Western Bayshore, which at that time probably was the premier hotel in all of Canada. And, again, what your owner does for you to help you to win, right? Because from there, the guys, felt really special because, now the Grey Cup, the Bayshore, it kind of all fits in. And, I can remember David Braley, too. He's always been a big supporter. And I remember in 2011 when we were struggling, I think we were 1-6, and David usually doesn't ever say anything public, but, he came out and said, hey, we're not making any changes. We're going to let Wally run the football club. I have a lot of confidence in him. And, we turned the season around, and all of a sudden we ended up winning the Grey Cup at home. So your owner, God bless him, whether it's Sam Berger, David Braley, Bob Young, they mean a lot to the organization because it all filters down, right? And, if they give you the means and they create the environment, success usually comes.
Well, and you've had great success and great fortune with that, of course, because I've talked to some coaches where that's not always the case. If you've got an owner who likes to meddle, I want this guy to start, or hey, I want you to draft that guy.
Yeah.
First of all, it takes the authority away from you, but I mean, it makes the coach's job that much more difficult, doesn't it?
Well, you know what? Yes and no. I've always felt, and I still feel today, you own the football club, you have the right to give me your opinion. And then I have the right to do what I think is best for the football club. If you don't like what I do, you can always fire me, right? And that's actually what happened in Calgary in 2002. Michael Frederick bought the club from Sid Gucci. We had just won the Grey Cup in 2001, and Michael Frederick took ownership after that, and his son was one of our players. And after training camp in 2002, I didn't feel his son was good enough to play, and he felt differently, and before you knew it, I was in BC.
And the rest, as they say, is history, and it's quite a history as well. When you move to a situation like that and you see the players on a roster, the ultimate goal is Grey Cup. Do you do that evaluation, Wally, to say, yeah, I can win with these guys, I can develop these guys? And I go back to your quarterback situation. When you had injuries, as every CFL team does, you always seem to find that plan B. All of a sudden, it looks like the Lions are out of quarterback, and there's Travis Lulay comes out of, and bingo, you're right back on top of it again. And you always seem to find that guy, which is a testimony not just to you as a coach, but as a general manager, and to your team, too, to be able to say, I know a guy, I got a guy. He's at this college here. Let's have a look at him.
Well, but that's, and I said to you earlier in the show, it's much more difficult today than it was maybe 5-10 years ago because of the fact that the NFL is, it's taking a lot of the athletic quarterbacks, quarterback types that would play in the CFL, whether it was height, athleticism, schools, whatever. So you gotta, you gotta work harder probably at it. You gotta look under more stones, and you gotta understand what you're looking for. It's like I used to tell people, you don't know till you see the individual. You don't know till you listen to the individual. I can't explain to you what I'm looking for, but I can after I see it. Okay, and a good example was, Travis Lulay. He came to our free agent camp, I think, in Portland. We were there, and the whole time he was on the field, he impressed us with his leadership. Not so much with his great arm or with his great speed, because he was just average in all of that. But what impressed you about it was his leadership, his knowledge, his command, and you could see the players who didn't know who he was respond to him, right? So all of a sudden, you see that this guy has the it factor when it comes to some critical things about being a quarterback, which is leadership and getting players to respond to him.
You can't teach that, can you, Wally? I mean, that's something they have to show on either side, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, whatever the case would be. Leaders show themselves, don't they?
Well, they do. You can help bring it out by reinforcing it or giving them confidence. But at the end of the day, it's an inner quality that some have and some don't have. And on your football team, you don't need to have 30 or 40 leaders. You just need to have a handful. And if your quarterback is one, that's usually a tremendous asset.
We're all hyped about the Grey Cup, of course, coming up in just a couple of months here in Hamilton. Your team's looking pretty good as we go into it. Now, I know there's a long way to go. Playoffs and the Western Conference especially seems to have at least one major upset in every playoff year. But the Lions are starting to look pretty consistent and pretty solid. You must be pretty pleased with that.
Well, we are. I was at the game, the other night, and again, they got a very, very good football team. A lot of speed, a lot of skill, and they're solid in all three phases. Which are what you need. And when you look at the West, especially right now, you got to say it's going to be a tough grind between the Bombers and the Lions. But you know what? Don't underestimate the third place team, because you got to play them. And, if you take them lightly, you might be watching the next game. So, in the East, I think it's a little bit more wide open. But, Toronto has shown that they've got a great football team. And, you're going to have to play great football to beat those guys.
Absolutely. It's going to be an incredible playoff this year in the Canadian Football League. And I know that, as I said at the beginning of our conversation, the ultimate goal here is to raise that cup and to wear that ring for the rest of your life. And you got a bunch of them. I don't know what drawer you keep them in, but
I keep them in the bag. I keep them in the bank, actually. No. Yeah, no, like I said, it's, the rings are something that you cherish because you can pass those on to your kids and grandkids. And like I said, when you win a championship, the players that you bond with. I just went to the 1998 25-year anniversary reunion in Calgary about 3-4 weeks ago, and to see some of the the players now that it's 25 years later, the memories are still there. The fresh, the sacrifices, the hard work, and to talk about some of the things that occurred during the week, the game, the year, it just brings back memories, which is, at our age is pretty much something that we really enjoy.
Well, that's part of the joy of Grey Cup, isn't it? Reliving some of those past memories and some of those stories that you guys will probably never share with the public. But, I mean, you've got them among yourselves.
Yeah.
Some of them you probably don't want to share with the public.
Well, the other thing is you get better every year, right? So... Yeah, no, it's the Grey Cup is a special game, but it's also special for the for the organization, for the league, for the province, and for the country. It's not just a game, it's more than just that. And that's why when you go to a Grey Cup week, you see all the fans across country, you see the common goal they have, you see the pride that they have, it makes you understand how important the Canadian Football League is to the country.
And the legacy that the week has, and certainly the game has. And Wally, you're a big part of that. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I really appreciate it.
Well, appreciate it. And Bill, hopefully for the Tiger Cats and my good friend Scott Mitchell and Big O and Mark Washington and all the guys, good luck to you. I know it's going to be a tough road, but you know what? Nobody said it's going to be easy. And sometimes the best memories come, through that tough road.
You betcha. Thanks again, Wally. Take care. We'll see you soon, I hope.
Thank you.
The great Wally Buono, of course, 7 Grey Cup rings. Not bad at all, huh? Thank you. This is another edition of GreyCupFestival.ca and, of course, the road to the Grey Cup delivered by Purolator. And we continue, of course, right up until Grey Cup week with some of the festivities that are going on. You can follow us on the Tiger Cat Network on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. So until next time, I'm Bill Kelly. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.